Manager. I just wanted to let you know that we're doing things a little bit differently for this town hall from a technical perspective. So if you have any questions or run into any problems, feel free to chat Katrina Owens, and she'll be able to help you get what you need. We'll turn it over to Tony to open us up. Oh, you're on mute, Tony.
I'm just talking. Anyway, good afternoon, everybody. I am, one of the things I hate about this pandemic is I don't get to see everybody's face. Nevertheless, I know you're there, and I am just so happy to be able to speak to you today. We have, and welcome again, as Sam said, to our August Town Hall. We have will be a fantastic and interesting town hall. As you all know, last month we got to hear from Holly Crawford on the financial issues impacting the university. And this time around, we're going to get to hear from Mercedes Ramirez Fernandez, our inaugural Chief Diversity Officer. And she's going to spend some time talking about her role and what it is she's going to be doing at the University of Rochester. And then we're going to do an HR award. Sam and I will present the award. After that, Kathy Gallucci is going to spend a few minutes talking about remote work and work expectations. And then we'll have some closing announcements. So that's what our agenda looks like for today. So I don't want to take too much time right now because I'm really excited that our inaugural Chief Diversity Officer is here to spend some time with us today. Mercedes comes to us from Virginia Tech, where she was the deputy to the Chief Diversity Officer there, a classmate of mine from Vanderbilt. And so I knew that Mercedes was a talented individual even before she got here. So I'm so happy to present Dr. Fernandez to you, and I'm going to turn the floor over to her for the next 30 to 40 minutes.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Tony. In the same way, our wonderful friend in common at Virginia Tech told me that good things must be happening at the University of Rochester because you were here. So it's been a wonderful partnership. I've appreciated all of the support since I arrived here a little over a year ago. So I don't know if Sam is going to ask me questions. Is that how okay, great.
As long as I can unmute myself, I think
we're right. Yes.
So we're all set. I think a lot of people have heard about this Office of Equity and Inclusion, but I think they're curious to hear more. Can you talk a little bit about how it started and what you consider to be its mission going forward?
Yes, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I have been here a little over a year. And the office actually started as a result of, the community, getting together and asking for a central voice on matters of equity, diversity, and inclusion. This actually made me think a little bit about, all of us need to deal with budgets, but we will never consider not having a CFO in an organization. So likewise, we all need to deal with issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion. So having a CDO or somebody that acts as the clearing person in terms of an office is very important in order to be able to make sure that progress, on all matters of diversity. When I first started, I started a series of interviews and conversations and discussions with, community members, with staff, with employees at large, and students and alums. And that, can inform the major priorities for the office. It kind of let me, very good for me to know the needs that we have here at the University of Rochester. So, but the office is, basically dedicated to equity and, actualized access. And that's what I define as the provision of the conditions that are necessary for success for the people in our community, either as employees or as students. And also we are, we deal with issues of compliance, so legal matters. We also deal with issues of anti-bias training. We deal with education and scholarship, advocacy program. And my goal, for our university and for the office would be to be a community engaged, socially just, and racial and anti-racist research institution. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how we're framing our work.
Excellent. I've heard you mention that you've been meeting a lot with a lot of students and faculty and staff to talk about the university's diversity issues. I'm curious, what have you been hearing in those meetings?
Yes, so there have been, countless meetings in the fall. Those meetings were in person, and then after, COVID-19, just, hit us, then a lot of these conversations have been virtual, meeting with SMD and with grad students, with students and members of the Douglas Leadership House, meeting with the Genesee Staff Council. Tony and I have the awesome opportunity to meet with them on with the chairs on a regular basis, with departments at URMC, with the leadership there, with frontline staff, so many people, and also alums, alums and friends of the university. And that has been really wonderful to hear the perspectives of people that were students here or were faculty or staff here and are no longer in the city of Rochester. So I think that, the needs are very specific, to your identity within the community, whether or not you're a student, whether or not you're a staff member. And even if you're a staff member, there's just a very vast group of individuals. But if I would have to kind of like just generalize that, people just want to see progress, progress on issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, progress in their work environments, toward more safe and healthy environments where people can, learn and do their work in a peaceful and productive way. They want to also continue to learn and continue to be able to, to move upwards and to see their compensation be expanded as well. So we have been working on all of those issues, with Tony and Kathy and Barb Sad and many others. We have also, have heard from people in the community around, the Public Safety Review Board, and that is one of the areas that I have been working along with students and faculty and community members. But most of all, people just want to have a voice, and they want to have a hope that is supported by evidence. So it's just not like this hope that it's just very esoteric, but they just want to be able to have evidence to be able to support a hope for a more equitable institution.
Thank you. In the, it was enough several weeks ago when we had kind of watched our world change before our eyes, you and the President Mangelsdorf, sent out a message to the UR community. And in that, you mentioned actions that would be taking place to address incidents reporting, issues with equity, diversity, and inclusion, kind of several things that were laid out and mapped for the future. I'm curious if you could give us some updates. Yeah,
certainly. So yes, so we have created an equity and diversity and inclusion action plan. So it's a form that all deans and heads of departments will be completing. And there is a framework for that completion, and we're utilizing a social justice framework for the priorities here at the university. So we have 5 priorities, and those are going to advise and one of our deans first. So I'm just actually just going to say this to continue to advance the mission of the University of Rochester through an equity, diversity, and inclusion lens, right? So, the teaching and the research and the service and the creation, the clinical enterprise, all through an equity and diversity and inclusion lens. I will then probably place underneath that the development and sustainment of an infrastructure that supports the work, that supports EDI work, equity and diversity and inclusion work. When I came here, I was able to see that there's very little infrastructure. This is the first Office of Equity and Inclusion, and I'm honored to be in the inaugural, Vice President of Equity and Inclusion. So there's a lot of work in terms of infrastructure, data, and reporting, to be able to just keep us accountable to all of our community members and stakeholders. And that's one of the areas that, our office has been working on. Enhancing the recruitment and the retention of a diverse staff and faculty and students across schools. That is what's going to make us, really, truly a powerful global research university. And then, critically important is, how do we cultivate and again sustain a fair and a just climate and culture, that lead us then to be that type of community where we can tackle, the big problems of the 21st century. And lastly, we have, I mentioned earlier that I see this work as, be community connected. So the last one is about, community engagement for racial justice. And, I got a bit of a push, when I mentioned this to some of the groups, why racial justice. So if we look at, as you mentioned, Sam, what happened after the untimely death of George Floyd back in May 25th, and Breonna Taylor, and countless African Americans that have died untimely and violently. It just really has highlighted the inequities across all social dimensions. So, one of the hopes that I have for our office and for our institution is to how do we address them in education, in housing, in the criminal justice, health, having just basically leveraging all of our knowledge to make sure that our university is working towards solving some of these issues. For Black, brown communities, people living in poverty. These reports are also going to be asking our leaders, to report the number of staff that they have of color, and also report their so the demographics on race and ethnicity and gender, and also gender in the non-binary scale. I don't think we've ever, I don't think we have that data right now, because I asked for that. And then identifying, in your goals, what will be the action steps, and, what resources do they have available to be able to achieve those goals. And that can be like, the number of dollars that they have. So fiscal resources, but also, human resources, the knowledge to be able to, to achieve the goals. And how are they defining their metrics, of success? And that can be in terms of, numbers and, and words, quantitative and qualitative experiences. And then their milestones and timelines. And President Mangelsdorf wants this reports to be public. So we have to have a central website where we will have these plans posted, and anyone internal to the community and external can see the progress that we have made in year one, year two, year three, and from here on out.
Excellent. One question that we had actually submitted from this HR team that is a really important one is, what does it mean to be an anti-racist institution, and what goes into that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. President Mangelsdorf and Dr. Mark Tupman signed an anti-racism initiative. A few. I don't even know what time it is. When was that? Because time has lost its significance in this new world that we're living. But that was just a very important step both, symbolically and operationally. Because, once you go there, you're indicating that that's your aspiration of becoming an anti-racist and socially just institution. So that means that we'll have to take a look at our policies and, how are they in the context of anti-racism. So I generally, people have like a bit of a problem with this. I mean, I'll just like not really understand what that means. It helps to deconstruct that a little bit with like examples. Like when I'm talking about socially just and anti-racist practices. I kind of lost you. Hold on one second. I started moving my computer and I just lost your face, Samantha. Okay, you're back. But I'll give you an example. My mother, when I was a kid in high school, my mom worked at the local university, and she was an administrative staff person. And she was told that she could not leave her post, and unless there was somebody that was able to replace her. So I remember being there between my classes later on when I was at college at this same institution, and she told me she had not been able to even she had not gone to the bathroom in like, I don't know, because I mean, nobody was there to release her. So, so there's like different ways in which the university actually operates that are not equitable, they're not humane, and they're not revised. So another example, when I was working at the University of Illinois, we had a rule that all of our students had to work on a full-time basis. And I was working with students from rural communities and also from urban cities down south of Chicago, that in order for them to be able to finance their education, they were holding jobs that were 35 to 40 hours a week. So the university placed one semester that you could be on an underload, meaning less than 12 hours, less than full time. But they needed to work every semester. I mean, because they needed to pay their rent every semester. And not only were they paying for their food, their rent, but they were also sending money back home, to help their families. So this particular rule was the wrong policy. So instead of just fulfilling that policy, and when I was working with students, I said, well, why do we have to do it this way? So I think when we're all working, we are, sometimes you hear, well, this is the way it is, or this is the way we do it at, I remember this is the way we do it at Illinois, or this is the way that we do it at Virginia Tech. I've heard already, this is the way we do it here at Rochester. So when I hear that, I just pause. Because to me, that's kind of coded language for something else, like why, who made the rule? And perhaps the rule was good, 50 years ago, but it's just not really relevant, to the staff and the students that we have right now. So, in order to be able to create this, ongoing continuous improvement process for our university so that everyone can thrive. So, so looking at policies is the first step that we are, that's the first step that we are engaged in right now. And you mentioned the earlier, and I neglected to answer that, on the policy for harassment and discrimination, or as we call it, policy 106, is a very good example of that. How do we make sure that our policies are fulfilling the needs of our community?
Excellent. So really, as we're continuing, I think I'm sure people would like to know what you hope to accomplish this year. What are the top priorities of the new office, and what we can expect to look forward to in the near future?
Yes. So we are building on collaborative partnerships. We're working on developing an equity and inclusion collaborative partnership model that we have started with the University Medical Center and the USM University School, you are a School of Medicine and Dentistry, with the announcement of the Associate Vice President for Equity and Inclusion and Senior Associate Dean, Adrian Morgan. At the same time, we're doing this in a lot of the other schools, Simon School of Business, in partnership with the deans, Eastman School of Music. We've been undergoing many conversations around issues of climate and culture for specific areas of the school. And so our goal and our hope is that we will have people in places that will be addressing the issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion locally, because actually diversity is played locally. We can have like a framework for the university, but cultures are unique in every single school or department. So we're making progress towards that. So it's very exciting. It's been really good to work with a lot of the leadership and the people in the trenches, making that happen. And as I mentioned earlier, once we receive the information from the equity, diversity, and inclusion action plans, that will give us a lot of very specific and granular information that we will use to create themes for the university, but also cost out, what does it take in order to be able to achieve our goals? Because right now it's like, if somebody will ask you how much money will it take, since there had never been this needs analysis or establishing goals or metrics, or it's very difficult to come up with a particular figure. Our hope is also that our deans and people in leadership will think very intentionally about how they are going to be utilizing their resources to meet also the needs of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Another big piece is education and training and building capacity. We as an institution had not devoted many resources, to education and training on issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I believe that is just not only centrally, it's like all of us, how do we create, how do we make that a priority? And that is just not like a one-off, but that we just have to continue to, just this learning, it's a lifelong journey. It's just not one day you're just going to wake up and everything, that is in any job. And, but particularly around these issues, that's just, it's a lifelong journey. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that's a wonderful point to end on, is talking about this topic as a learning opportunity for everybody. So thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mercedes. It was very kind of you to spend some time with us today. And Sam, I think you're up.
Yes. So another exciting thing we get to do today is to talk about the 2020 HR Achievement Award. So this award is given every year to an HR employee, and that employee is actually nominated by a fellow HR employee. So it's kind of an exciting way to get recognized by your colleagues. There's a selection committee made up of past recipients that actually reviews all the nominations and makes a recommendation for the winner. And basically the review is based on 4 values of HR, and they are performance excellence, engagement, integrity, and inclusion. And with that, I will turn it over to Tony to introduce this year's winner.
And this year's winner of the HR award is Dan Gibson. Dan, if you'd like to say a few words, now would be the time. But as Dan is coming on the scene, I just want to say that there's Dan. He's in the office today. He's been in the office quite a bit recently. But Dan is one of those people that I go to as well when I need something sensitive and in a hurry. So Dan, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Tony, and I'll be brief, but I just want to say thank you to you, thank you to HR for the opportunity to work here. I love working for the university, And thank you to Mike for nominating me. I truly appreciate that. And just very quickly, I wanted to say, I know everyone in HR has done so much, in particular this year with all that's going on and the changes that we've had to make and the way that we've had to serve the university community. And I know I don't know 10% of what goes on, but I think everyone deserves recognition this year for what they've done. So thank you again.
Thanks, Dan. And congratulations again. Next on our agenda is to talk about remote work. And so Kathy Gallucci will be joining us for that. And Kathy, we're ready to hear about it.
Okay, thanks, Tony. That's so like Dan to thank everyone else and recognize their work. That was really nice.
That's very nice of him.
We have been working remotely now for several months, and I know we have a number of people who are working remotely. We have a number of people who are coming in. We have a lot of questions about how long this is going to last and what the future of remote work is. And so we thought we'd give you a little overview of what we've been working on. We have developed a policy, so we have a policy draft that I think that might be with senior leadership right now. And it really is a general kind of how do we look at remote work, not necessarily in the context of COVID-19, but in general, looking at remote work going forward. And then we, of course, have the context of COVID-19 and the fact that the university came out with a communication, I think it was last week. You know, we really want to encourage people to continue to work remotely. We want to make sure that we don't add to any transmission in the community. And so we really, if people can work from home, we want to continue having them work from home. Certainly, if there's a valid business reason that somebody has to be in the office, we want to accommodate that. But really, what we're looking at is keeping people working remotely, probably right to January 1st. And we'll probably start doing an assessment sometime around October, November to kind of figure out where we are, what's going on with COVID-19, what's going on with treatment and vaccination and transmission in our community, and then we'll get an additional communication out to really help folks understand where we think we might be going with that. So kind of two things going on. The long-term idea around remote work, you know, I think we want to explore that. We feel like this has shown us that there's an opportunity to have folks work remotely and have it really work well. And so there's that effort, and then there's the shorter term remote work in the context of COVID-19, and we really want to encourage people who can work from home to remain doing so. And you know, I want to mention on behalf of Tony and I, we do recognize that this fall, with those who have school-age children, there's going to be lots of challenges around school schedules being different than perhaps maybe they are normally. And so we want to encourage all of our managers, and we have done so in a couple of different communications, to please be as flexible as possible with employees. Again, people who can work remotely should do that, but also with flexible scheduling. And just because someone's normally scheduled 8 to 5 doesn't mean that all that work has to happen within 8 to 5. We really want leaders to look and say, can we be more flexible with that? Can some things get done in the evening or on the weekend? Can we really look at the different shifts? And so we have a guide that we have developed for managers that we'll be sharing so that they can get some ideas about how they can look at scheduling different too. And certainly we want to apply that to all of you as well, understanding that not only those with children, but those with other family responsibilities, we always want to try and be as flexible as we possibly can. So I don't know, Tony, if you'd like to say anything else.
I would like for you to tell folks about the YMCA program.
Oh,
Kathy.
yes. Yes, that's a great idea. So we have been working with the Y. We partner with them, as you know, through our benefits office. They really have worked on discounts and other things that they've provided to us over the years for their services, but they've really been trying to respond to the community need related to the abbreviated in-person school schedules. So they have created a program. It's called the Y School of Rock. And the Y School of Rock essentially is going to do a couple of different things. The main program considers the school district where the Y location is. So they tried to look at, I'll use my location. I live on the west side. We have Gates Y. And that Gates Y is using the school schedules of the schools that surround it. So Gates Chi-Li, Churchville Chi-Li, Spencerport, to really understand what are the school schedules for the students and what program and hours can they put in place to augment that school schedule. It includes helping students with remote learning. And so the programs are 3 days a week. They are designed, if the student is going to school Monday, Tuesday, that the slot, if you will, that the Y will offer would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which is the opposite schedule that they'll be attending school. Parents can actually choose to only take 2 days, but the program is designed for up to three. And so we have partnered with them, and we are providing a subsidy. They've only been able to give us a limited number of slots, but we're going to provide a subsidy, the university, to individuals who make less than $60,000 a year, who are full-time, required to be on site, and not remotely working, but required to work on site. Which makes challenges around childcare that much more difficult. And so that went out at Rochester at URMC today. And there's 6 or 7 locations. Now, there's one other thing that I want to mention. The Rochester City School District did not actually announce their program until, I think it was Friday. And so the Y has been trying to work with them to figure out, okay, now that you've announced that you're going to be completely remote, how do we work with you to support Rochester City School District families? And so we expect there'll be more to come on that for our employees. But we got the information out as fast as we could for the other districts, and the Rochester City School District information will come out as soon as we have it. The challenge is there's more need than there is space available, and part of that is that the schools, because the schools are abbreviated and they're doing cleaning and other things, many of the schools cannot make their space available to the Y to help absorb some of the programming, and that's particularly true with the Rochester City School District. So locations to run programs are limited, but we did get right up on the front end. I'm very proud of the work that the HR department did to get on the front end of partnering with the Y and really provide as much support as we possibly could to families that are really having to figure out school-age schedules for the fall. I just said a lot.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Kathy. That's great help. And now I think we're going to take just a quick pause, and I'm going to give Sam and Patrina and Jamie a chance to see if there are questions that we need to answer.
So if anyone has a question that they'd like to ask Tony and Kathy, if you could just do so in the chat. I believe you have the option to chat to all panelists, and those of us here in the background can see, and we can get those questions answered. So you can go ahead and submit any questions you might have.
And Mercedes is still with us too, although we can't see her at the moment.
She is. Okay, so we have our first question. With individuals working remotely from home, if there are ergonomic concerns, what kind of support can the university provide? So I'm assuming that leads to, chairs and monitors and seating and all that good stuff that, the work from home life leads.
Oh, that's such an easy question. I'm going to ask Kathy to answer that.
I thought you might say that. So it is an excellent question, and we're still kind of working out the details of that. We do recognize it as an issue, and I think part of what's involved when we do an ergonomic evaluation is we typically send someone to the work site. Sending people to someone's home is a much different situation, and there's other considerations that we have to make in doing that. And so we are working through the details of that. And I believe that when we publish the policy, that I hope will be soon, we will have that particular piece of information embedded in that policy, and we'll be able to give you more detail on that. So really working through, there has to be a workforce that can do that. And so some of this, even when we talk about equipment, we've been asked, can I move my tower home? So I don't have a laptop. Can I move my tower from my desk home? Again, IT resources, being resourced to actually send people to someone's home is something we haven't traditionally been. So we're working through all those details now.
Yeah, when leaving very quickly in March, they realized that they couldn't take their chair with them. Some would just grab their laptop and left, and they found themselves working, at coffee tables, from bar stools, from any place available to them. And then of course that's not very ergonomic, and that leads to back difficulties and other things. And so we are interested in trying to work out those issues that Kathy just talked about. But it takes you got to have somebody who knows what they're doing and what to look for and those kind of things. In the meantime, I would suggest if you're having those kind of issues, I bought myself one of those desks that elevate so you can go up and down, but sometimes you may not have the resources to do that. So you stack books or other things, and I've done that as well before I did that. But you do need to be mindful of the fact that you're maybe sitting and staring at a screen or in a place that's unusual, and take breaks, walk around, stay hydrated, do the kind of things that you know to do to try and protect, to mind and do some self-care. So that's what I would add, but you're right, Kathy. We have to try and figure out what we're going to do about that.
A bit of a follow-up question to that, Kathy, leads to your comment about kind of equipment. The question is that there are some folks working remotely that feel like there's little things as simple as like a pair of headphones or a headset for Zoom sessions that would be really helpful. Is there any consideration to some of those smaller pieces that might be helpful?
Yeah, and so when we looked at equipment in the policy, we talked about that. Do we list all the equipment? And then the committee, let me just step back for a minute. The committee was made up of a number of people across the university and the medical center that really have a number of remote staff working remotely. And so we talked about equipment, and what we found is that it's really variable by area. And so we've written the policy that some of that will be discretion of the department. So There may be, in working with IT, there may be a department that needs actually a special kind of headphone for whatever reason. And so we wanted to allow flexibility for departments to be able to make that determination based on the specific work of the individuals. So there is flexibility built into it, and it will be up to the leader to really determine what are the equipment needs for their staff working remotely.
Excellent. Another question that's a really good one is related to the remote work surveys that were distributed both at the medical center and on River campus. And the question is just, what is the feedback that we've been getting, and when will kind of that feedback be announced to the community?
So we did get some very good feedback. We had, if I remember correctly, we sent the survey out to some over 3,000 employees on the campus side of the house. We got back, I think, over 1,200, 1,400 surveys, and people told us a number of things. One, the thing that they told us was that many people enjoy, like, or strongly like working from home or working remotely. And then, but we also asked questions around the issues of how are you feeling connected? And most people said they were still able to feel connected. Then there were questions related to whether or not are you able to disconnect from work? And that's one of the areas that was pretty interesting. The responses is that a higher percentage of people said that they are having more difficulty disconnecting from work, which led Kathy and I to talk to an expert on remote work engagement. And so we're going to see if we can follow up and get some more of those principles to share with you all as well as across the campus. But that was one thing, that there were pieces of equipment that people told us that they were missing. The most people said that they were missing equipment. They said it was printers and scanners. But overall, people have adjusted pretty well to working remotely and appreciate the fact that they're able to do this and consider that they were really effective. So that's what I saw when I was reviewing a summary of on the campus side of the house. Anything to add to that, Kathy?
You know, Tony, I think the results, very similar number of people that it went out to, very similar response. The only thing that I would add is that we really heard from people is there is a reluctance to come back until there's a feeling that there's some sort of a time frame around COVID, and making sure that we have safe practices in place. There has been a tremendous amount of work by teams working collaboratively between the medical center and the University CURT team, and just really making sure that spaces are marked and safety measures are in place. So we did hear quite a lot about safety and some discomfort there, and we just want to emphasize that for anyone that does need to return, there has been a tremendous amount of work put into making sure that the workplace is safe, and that the practices are following all of the science and the guidelines that are out there. So that's been a really important piece of I think, feedback from the survey.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. We'll try to get them in. We'll see how time goes here. But the next one, probably, Kathy, is for you regarding the YMCA program that you spoke about. Do we know kind of how the application process has been going? What's the response been like, the number of applications? Just curious to hear more about how it's going.
Yeah, actually it's a little, so today I think was really the first full day of kind of folks having gotten the email and emailing. So they email their interest in the program. We have had interest. Frankly, it is not as significant as I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to be overwhelmed with emails applying to the program, but we really haven't. I think people are still trying to figure out their kind of the schedule and how it impacts them and what their options are. So we're keeping our eye on it. And like I said, we also, because we didn't get a huge response right out of the gate, that doesn't mean that we're not going to. So we're keeping an eye on it. We have some options. We still have the Rochester City School District program to come out and how they're going to handle that. And so we're gonna continue to work closely with the Y, and if it fills up, we'll do everything we can to try and expand opportunities to support people. But again, there was only so many spaces that they could commit to us, and there are not a huge number of programs, I think, and huge organizations for us to partner with on this. So we're doing the best we can. But right now, we have spaces.
Okay, I think we'll call this one our last question, just in the interest of closing announcements to close out our afternoon. But the last one is a little bit related to what we were talking about with headphones, but it's talking about remote work and kind of the idea around privacy. And, you know, should headphones be sort of required for folks maybe in HR or finance, or things like having a shredder available for documents that may be sensitive or have sensitive information? Has there been any talk or consideration around that? You know, that heightened privacy issue that HR has that probably other departments in both the medical center and campus may not have, although certainly the medical center, I'm sure, deals with that as well.
Yeah, so we had our privacy experts, we consulted with them when we were kind of writing this portion of the policy up. And again, I think absolutely there's an opportunity to look at that and it on a department by department basis. I think we really have to look at the work of the individual and what kind of private information are they really working on in their space, and should we have headphones or some other way of making sure that the privacy is really being honored. So I think department leaders really have to consider that. And so if there's a leader in HR that has a concern and really wants to talk about this, I think we are wide open to having that conversation.
Okay, I think that's probably all the questions we have time for. And if anyone has asked a question, there's one or two more, we'll get back to you after the town hall. But now I will turn it over to Tony.
All right. Well, again, this is as you all or many of you know, we're doing this this format of having monthly town halls because it was suggested by you, and so. I think it is a great way for us to try and keep in touch with people and to let them know what's going on and keep them apprised as best we can in this remote situation. It is sometimes a difficult format because you can't see the faces of the people you're talking to and their reactions, and it's a difficult format in which to ask immediate questions or to raise your hand and be recognized for something that you might have need an immediate response to, but we're making it work. And so we're gonna continue to do that. And I appreciate each and every one of you for the work that you're doing. And I do have a special announcement to make, and that is that I will be leaving the University of Rochester before the end of September. And I've decided to make a move to Georgetown University to be the Vice President and Chief Human Resource Officer there. And part of that had to do with the fact that I have family in that area. And this is a difficult time to be away from family. I think that most of you know that. The other aspect that of the announcement is that I want you all to know that you're in good hands. Kathy Gallucci is going to serve as the interim Chief Human Resource Officer. I think there will be a search for a human resource officer and that will be led by the president's office. And so it's an interesting and I think amazing time for HR. When I got here 5.5 years ago, the quest was to elevate this function and to take it to the next level. And I think that although I won't be here when that happens, I am confident that that's the direction that HR is going with with all of you, because the HR strategic plan put us front and center initially. Then the work that you all did to bring those things to fruition have really moved the ball with regard to the way HR is viewed. I'm very proud that I've had an opportunity and a privilege to serve with you all, and to serve with you and to serve alongside you in doing this work. And I know that the trajectory is only moving up for the HR department. So with that, I will be prepared to take my leave. But again, I am just delighted that I've been able to work with such a wonderful team of HR heroes. And thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for that difficult news for us to hear, but we appreciate you letting us know. I just kind of wanted to let the HR team, everyone know that we are waiting for Georgetown to make an announcement. So while Tony was gracious and wanted to make sure that all of you heard this news first, we do kind of want to be sensitive to folks that are at Georgetown and haven't heard this yet. So they'll be announcing it, I believe, tomorrow morning. So if you can kind of keep this to yourself for a little while so that we don't kind of rain on their parade, and make sure that they hear the news from their institution, that would be great.
Can I just also, Sam, just I don't know how many more times we'll have Tony with the group. I'm hoping at least a couple more, but I think it's worth noting he has been a tireless advocate for HR. And when I started here, 3.5 years ago now, it was 4 years. Was it 4 years ago? It's really, time is really flying.
Like 20.
Yeah, it's been something. My first day, we were jumping into the HR strategic plan and asking for resources on my very first day, and he has really been a tireless leader in terms of advocating for HR, our need to be at the table, our need to have the resources to do the work. And I think what I really appreciate about him, and I personally will miss, is he always keeps his sense of humor in even the most challenging of situations. And you have to have that kind of demeanor when you're trying to move mountains. And so I really do appreciate all that he's done, and I've enjoyed working with him, and he will be missed. And we will have some sort of opportunity to wish him farewell. We are not going to let COVID stop us from some sort of celebration of the work that he's done here. So we're going to do it in a good, socially distant way, but we're going to figure out how to celebrate the work that he's done here.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, more to come on that soon. We'll be in touch with everybody. But Tony, it's tough news to hear, but good congratulations to you. And thank you, everybody, for attending today. And we'll be sending out the when we get it, so that folks who were unable to attend today can watch. Thank you very much.